Hi, my name is Enis. This is Never Stop Trucking. Welcome to another video about dispatching and trucking. There was a question the other day in YouTube comments that I liked, and I wanted to make a video about it. And that question was what would be a difference between a 1 day load and a 3 day load, or maybe a 2 day load or a 4 day load. So, what would be the difference? How much can you make running a 1 day load? What can you expect as opposed to 2 or 3 day loads? And it sounds like a simple question, but then the more I think about it, it's actually very complicated. So, 1 day load is usually a load between 0 miles and probably like 600, maybe a little bit over 600 miles now that we have ELDs, but let's just say 0 to 600 miles a day for easier calculations. So these loads, first thing is that you have to have a driver that's willing to do a load like this. Usually there are different kinds of drivers who like to stay out longer on the road. Those drivers tend to like these longer loads, like 2 to 3 day runs, where they can load and then take it easy and slowly make some miles, and make some money, as opposed to drivers that like to be home more often. Or that like to go to specific areas, like here in Michigan, some drivers like to go east, not deep east, like maybe like Buffalo, New York, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Hazleton. That's around 600 miles. And then, they like to go there because these loads tend to pay very well. And they come back here for a little less money right now. It used to be a lot less money to come back, but now it's just a little less money. And then go do another one like that. So do two of these round trips a week. Sometimes you could do even maybe three if everything is perfect, everything checks out, and driver is willing to do that. So that's a 1 day load for you. So they tend to pay more per mile as well, as opposed to these longer loads. In my experience, the longer the load, if the load has a lot of miles, like the route is higher mileage, then these loads tend to pay less per mile. So if you have a load at 600 miles, that load may be paying, right now, anywhere from like $3 to $5 per mile, maybe even more. But if you have a load that's 2,000 miles, then those loads tend to pay less, maybe around $2 to $3 a mile, maybe even less. Okay, so that's you have to set your priorities. Even as a dispatcher, it's of course easier to book loads with a lot of miles because you're technically free for like 2 to 3 days. If you have a driver that likes to do these shorter trips, if the driver is driving like 500 to 600 miles a day, then you have to have a load every day for that driver. You have to look every day for one load. And then I spoke about this few times, I have a driver who does really short loads, like 50, 100, 200 miles a day, and then he does 2 days a load, sometimes even three. So that's much, much harder, not just on the driver, because the driver has to do multiple pickups and multiple deliveries a day, but for dispatcher as well, because the dispatcher has to look for more loads a day. It's more work involved, and there is more calculations involved because you have to match all those times, pickup and delivery times, and then give a driver enough time to deliver that load. Let's say you're looking for today, and then go pick up the next load. And then there's always a problem. You run this risk of a driver getting stuck somewhere at a pickup or delivery, and then the next load falls through. So that's never fun. Okay, you usually have to know about this load, like if it's gonna be the receiver, the shipper, if they're okay. So when you look for loads like that, these short loads, then you have to make sure that these receivers are usually open all day, that it's not some kind of big warehouse like Walmart, Costco, Kroger's, McLean, any of those big DCs that they go by appointments and you get stuck for a few hours. So you have to usually go to like these smaller companies, maybe like auto industry or like local companies that have like 2-3 docks, and they get you in and out fast. So you have to watch that with these short loads. With longer loads, for drivers, it's much easier to do. They have enough time to make it, even if they load late. Let's say today is Monday and then this load delivers on Wednesday. Even if they load today late on Monday, they can still make it up tomorrow, the next day, then, because they have a full day to drive. And then maybe even on Wednesday morning get up earlier and then drive a little bit too, as opposed to short loads like you're doing 500-600 miles and then you get loaded late today and you're supposed to deliver early in the morning. Then you either have to drive all night, your next day, your fresh hours are going to start later tomorrow. You won't be able to start early, or you will run out of hours that day, and then tomorrow you're going to be maybe late for the appointment for delivery, or you're not going to be able to pick up another load after that in timely manner. So let's one more time quickly, the pros about longer loads, 2 to 3 days for drivers. They have enough time to pick up and deliver. It's easier for them to run those loads. They have enough time to rest, take a shower, get lunch, sleep at night. There's just less stress involved. They have less pickups and deliveries to go to, because if they do, like, let's say 2 loads a week like this, then they only have 2 pickups and 2 deliveries in a week. If they do 5 short loads like this, each day 1 load, then they have 5 pickups and 5 deliveries. Okay, so that's much harder. So those are the pros for drivers. The cons are that they're probably gonna make less money, especially if they paid on percentage. If they pay by mile, maybe they will even be paid more because these loads are longer. So if they want to go home often, then it's going to be harder for them, because they have to go away from the home, 2-day trip and come back maybe 2-day trip. So they will be away from home for at least for probably 5 days. Okay. For the dispatcher, there are actually no cons. It's much easier for them. So the pros for dispatchers for these loads is easier to find them. Less stress, maybe even easier to negotiate with carriers. They will probably not give you a really good rate. Even when you're negotiating about these loads, they're not going to go much higher on this load, because remember, these loads tend to pay less per mile. So if the load pays, let's say you're running a load for like 1,000 1,000 miles for $3,000. So this load is paying already $3 per mile. So you're not gonna probably get 4,000 for this load. You may get 3,500, but chances are it's gonna be more like 32 or 33 when you start negotiating. So that's not much more when you take into account that this load is 1,000 miles, okay, the distance between pickup and delivery. If you get a load that's 500 miles and the load is posted for like 2,000 or 2,500, then you could ask, I would usually ask for like even for $500 more, and then usually you will get some money, maybe like $200, $300, $400 more for this kind of load. And then when you take into account that this load is only 500 miles, it adds up, those 500 miles, okay? Because, you can do 2 loads in 2 days like this. for like let's say you get $400 more for one load, so you get $800 more, okay, in 2 days because you're running 2 loads, okay, and then it's already a better pay per mile anyway, and then you're making more money now. But if you're doing a 2-day trip and you get like $400 more, you get $400 more only for 2 days, okay, and this load is paying less per mile, okay. So you have to take into considerations all that. The pros for the driver doing short loads is that they can be home more often, especially if they go back and forth from home base to someplace and come back, or maybe do a little triangle, like go east, go south, and then come back home again, for example. If they're paid by percentage, the drivers, they can make way more money by driving less miles, okay. For dispatcher, the con sides of this is that they have to put in a lot more work. There's more stress, more pickups involved, more deliveries involved, more paperwork to send, to invoice, more things that can go wrong, better chance of getting stuck at a delivery, or driver gets late and they don't want to unload, or maybe the weather conditions are bad, and then it's hard to get there on time if you're doing a 1-day trip. But if you're doing 2 or 3 day trip, even if you run into bad weather, you still have time left to do that. So hopefully this explains it a little bit to you. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, like the video, come back for more. See you around.